Welcome to Evolution Revolution. I am thrilled to have you with us today. And as you know, the purpose of our show is to introduce you to breakthroughs in the human potential movement that really work. I know that you are committed to a life that is more joyous, more peaceful, more successful, healthier, wealthier, whatever. And so in order to accomplish that, in order to achieve that, in order to reach that, whatever terminology you feel most comfortable with, you've got to have certain skills and tools. And every one of our experts really has mastered something that, at least to me, is brand new and really unique. Now, today's show is very, very interesting because it's about having it be effortless. And I know when I first met our guest today, I was really stunned because I don't even understand effortless. I don't even really know what that word means. But in the years that I've been friendly with our guest, Rama Arya, I've learned that it's working for him and it's working for a lot of us who have practiced these skills and really use them. So welcome to the show, Rama. It's great to have you back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
So this is our third show. And let me tell you a little bit about Rama. He's the creator of the Superintention program. He's the co-founder of the Oneness Manor in Los Angeles with his wife and my dear friend, Milena. He has a master's certification in neuro-linguistic programming, and he's an expert in East Indian yogic practices and quantum science, and he's also a oneness trainer from the Oneness University in India, and as most of you know, I studied there as well. And the Superintention practice allows us to have spontaneous and instantaneous results. So that's both spontaneous and instantaneous. And what's really remarkable is that it doesn't matter if you believe it, it doesn't matter if you expect it, it doesn't really matter. If you use these skills, it's going to superimpose the conscious mind. And when you do that, that's where the miracles exist. So, make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
So I hope that you will continue to really understand something that when you woke up this morning, I'm guessing you didn't understand. That's how new, that's how exciting and fresh this is. So my first question.
Yes.
You told me that there are three kinds of behaviors that occur when people are unable to calm themselves down. Tell us about that.
Well, in our everyday waking state, when we're totally in our analytical, logical mind, and this has been my own experience from meditating, the number one is the mind chatter, constant yakety yak, and the monkey mind. The second one is that inner conflict. Oh, what should I wear? Is this blue shirt going to look okay? Maybe I should wear the light blue one or the dark blue one. The third one is more of that inner sense of dissatisfaction. And I found that out by being in the U.S. I came to the U.S. when I was 9 years old, and it was always, oh, I should go for this thing, go for that, get that degree, get this car. But the funny thing is, when I got it, I felt incomplete still. It was always the pursuit of something, but it never fulfilled like that sense of inner dissatisfaction. And I think when those things are going on, there's not much anybody can do.
Yes.
So that's been my experience of it, and you can overcome it.
And that's what you're going to show us today, in
We're
fact.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Good. So now you have a very simple way of remembering the process, which is me.
Yes.
And
me.
What does that actually mean?
Okay, so me, minimum effort, me, maximum efficiency. See, what I find, Susan, is that if you're focusing on the problem, you're creating maximum effort. If you're focusing on the solution, the opportunity for the solution opens up.
Yes, yes.
And really, the Mimi practice is based on a very simple idea that if you don't like the show on the TV, you change the channel.
Yes, but not if you're watching our show, you don't.
That's right. Or you're driving down the road and someone's driving slow, you change lanes. You don't like the show on the radio station, you change it. And the idea is you're focusing on what you prefer on a daily basis. So if you're having a problem and you're focusing on what's wrong, that's maximum effort.
Yes.
And it doesn't work.
Yes. Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I know that years and years I've noticed that if I lose something, if I look for it, it takes me forever if I find it at all.
Right.
If I stop and I just focus on the thing that I want to find, and I focus on finding it, and I close my eyes and I see myself finding it, then really in less than a minute, I'm talking about tiny contact lenses that are clear. I've found so many of those around the world, I can't even tell you. And then when I don't stop, a few times I didn't stop, a windy day or something, I never found those lenses, forget it. So yes.
So here's the interesting thing about what you just said, closing your eyes. See, one of the things I've been doing a lot is a lot of research, you know, besides meditating and doing my practices. And I find that, well, for example, Bruce Lipton did a study where the conscious mind can process 40 bits of information, 40 pieces per second. Our deeper mind, which people call the subconscious, is like 400 million or something. It's outrageous. and the funny thing is, then University of Pennsylvania did another research, and he said Bruce Lipton was very conservative. And I've got the numbers right here.
Please, tell him.
It says that by their calculations, it's 2,000 bits of data per second for the conscious mind. And you ready for the subconscious mind?
Yes.
400 billion bits of information.
Wow.
So what does that mean? You're going to shopping at 7-Eleven for your groceries and there's only 40 pieces of merchandise.
Right.
Is it going to work to get what you need?
Certainly not at 7-Eleven. So many
exactly.
reasons.
But you don't go shopping at 7-Eleven.
That's why we
That's my
don't.
point.
That's why
you
we
go to a
don't.
superstore where all the things are already there, so the things that you want are there. See, this is the key.
Yeah.
Now, one other piece of information which I found profound, they also said that the processing speed, because we're always faster computers, faster cars,
Right.
our logical conscious mind can do 100 to 150 miles per hour in terms of processing. Now check out what the subconscious, according to their research, 100,000 miles per hour in processing speed.
Wow.
I mean, growing up, I used to take a bullock cart, you know, I mean, then the scooter, and then it was a car, I mean, the train, the plane, I mean, believe me, I'd be on a plane all day long. No more bullock carts for me. But funny enough, when it comes to solving problems, we're still using the bullock cart. We're still using things that, it's like trying to use a regular computer that's not connected to the internet to find a solution.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly. And you know, because those of you who've been watching my shows, you know, me on the Gigi show now for 9 years, so you know that so much of the work I do is teaching people how to change the language that they use, which includes thinking. So what Rama's saying really is that you're going to shift the way you think about this problem, and you're shifting it now to thinking about the goal or the solution. When you do that, then all of these things become possible. So thinking about your goal, thinking about your solution, and those of you who know my 6-part conversation and all the other work that I do on TV, you know that that's consistent with what Rama's teaching. And it makes all the difference in the world.
One other point that you made, that you close your eyes. See, the beauty is in our everyday waking state, your brain's operating at beta. That's only 40 bits. When you close your eyes, it begins to move into alpha. And alpha is when all of a sudden it just goes from here to here.
Yes.
So the key is to change brainwave states.
Yes.
And the faster you can do it, and the more deliberately you do it, the more access to instantaneous information.
And in fact, today when I had my hair done, Debbie, who does my hair, who's so brilliant, and she just told me something had happened to her brother-in-law, and he's in the hospital, and it's very serious. So I said, well, let's pray and let's see what we get. And so we were holding hands and we had our eyes closed and we were praying. And she said, oh, I saw him smiling at me. So she actually saw it. And I said, I saw him struggling to wake up from the coma.
Wow.
I had a clear experience of this. And she had a clear experience. And believe me, I'm not a psychic and Debbie's not a psychic. It was something that just, this information just showed up. Because we had our eyes closed and we were focused on the solution, which is that her brother-in-law wakes up and is perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And you know, one of the smartest people on the planet, Einstein, you know, I'm paraphrasing what he said, the state of consciousness that creates the problem cannot come up with the solution.
That's right.
So you're trying to create a solution in a state of mind that created the problem.
And you're
It's
never
just
going
not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Beautiful, thank you.
Sure.
So now, you told me that freedom is an attitude, and that really what you're doing with the Mimi program is teaching us how to enter into quantum consciousness quickly.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell us more about that.
So according to the ancient Indians, they realized that different levels of consciousness have different states. It's like if you want to be happy, you just associate with happy people. But internally, if you move and you remember a previous time when you were happy, it activates the happiness channel. So if you're interested in freedom, once again, you're attempting to experience freedom from a logical place that can't do it. So literally, you've got to move into the state of freedom consciousness. So the idea of being an attitude is once you focus on it, it instantly activates. Just like if you're watching a show, you don't like the show, you change the channel. Why? Because both shows are available. But the only time you can really do it is when you're interested in what you watch, interested in what you want to watch instead. The key is focusing on what you prefer. So when you focus on, I want to be in a state of freedom, and you close your eyes, just like you did real quickly, freedom happens. Then it's just a matter of practicing regularly to build the neural pathway. See, right now, most of our neural pathways is, oh, this is the problem, why it's not working. Well, if you keep focusing on the problem, it's never going to work. Just like how you find stuff. You move into a different state where the solution is already there. So that's why freedom really is an attitude. And because it's already within us, it's instantly available. And so for me, it's really about our daily experience, like changing the channel, changing the lanes. I mean, think about it. You go to a restaurant, like a buffet. You don't look at the dish and say, oh, that's horrible, that's horrible. You just say, I like that, I like that. I'm going to take some, taste it. Oh, this is good, I'll go back for more. Rarely do you focus on, oh, I shouldn't be eating that. The buffet will end before you get done. So it's really, for me, about daily experience. And because I can pick what I prefer, I do the same thing internally.
Thank you. Okay. So I've been meditating since the 70s. You've been meditating maybe since you were a baby. I don't even know. How long have you been meditating? I should ask.
Oh, at least 20 years.
Okay. So Ram and I have been meditating, each of us, for more than 20 years, and for me, even longer. So everyone doesn't have that much time, right? And even if you had that much time, there are faster ways to get there. But it isn't just about closing your eyes. Because frankly, most of the people who tell me that they meditate, not Rama, but most of the other people, what they're really doing is they're closing their eyes, they're sitting in one place, and they're thinking about what they have to do next and what they just finished doing. Going through what we call laundry lists.
Yes.
So how can people really speed up this process without 20, 30, 40 years of meditating?
Well, let me just give you a very simple example. Like people say, well, I've got a busy mind, I need to stop it. So I ask them this question. Have you ever gone to someone's house and you've never been there? And do you bump into every object that's there before you find a seat to sit? No. You ever been to a busy shopping area? Do you bump into everybody before you get to the products you want? No. You negotiate the space and you automatically find, because something you can feel, oh, I want to sit there. You look at the object and go, oh, I like that yogurt. Maybe you've never heard about it, but something within you lets you know. So I use the same thing. When I want to go into a calm, relaxed space, I command it. I imagine and feel how nice it is to be there, and within a few seconds, I'm there. See, I'm not trying to stop the mind from chattering. It'll never happen. I'm just saying, internally, take me to a calm, relaxed space. Bam, I'm there. Because when I order something, then I'll say, I'll come back in 20 minutes. No, they process my order, and they want to get it to me as fast as I can so that I'm happy, and if I'm happy, I give a good tip. So here's my tip. Focus on going to a calm, relaxed state, go inside, and within a few seconds, and we're going to go over this, how to do it.
Yes.
And the idea is to constantly do it. See, in my experience, it's not matter that you do it 20 minutes a day, twice a day. Because for most of us, that's just not possible.
Right.
But if you learn to do it 30 seconds here, 60 seconds there, the key is that the beauty of our mind is that it can keep habits. So the more you enter it, the more the coherence, that inner harmony builds. And you'll be able to get there within a few seconds just by practicing.
And certainly, they can practice this as they're going to sleep almost every night.
Exactly.
You know, the practice I give people, they can do while their eyes are open. You know, I'm always telling you do it while you wash the dishes, while you take a shower. But they have to close their eyes for your practice. But they can do that every night before they go to sleep, right?
They can close their eyes. I mean, think about it. Do you feel you could take 60 seconds?
Yes, I do. Because
Exactly.
It's more important to me than almost anything to have peace.
Exactly.
That's the key.
And then you can activate it by remembering how nice it feels. See, then you don't need to close your eyes because the memory of the feeling. I mean, you heard the story of Petite Madeleine, right? Okay, so there's this famous story because the senses are so powerful where this fellow went over to a shop and there was these Petite Madeleines. And when he smelt them, he brought back the memory of how his grandmother would cook these Petite Madeleines and he would loved it. Or you've been to, 20 years ago, you went to a dance and there's this song playing and you were with someone that you were like madly in love with and you got a chance to dance with them. So when you hear that song again, it brings back the memories rushing. You combine that with the quantum practice by bringing the feeling and the body-mind moves into that space instantly. Because we all want stuff fast, right? Fast cars, fast food. Why not fast results?
That's the key.
Exactly.
Nobody has time or patience for anything else.
We got too much information, too many things to deal with nowadays. Yeah.
So now why don't you describe the 3 levels for everybody?
So these are the 3 levels that I've basically made up. But the key here is to realize the first level is called level 3. Level 3 was the mind is calm, the body's relaxed. And the way it is that you want to remember how nice it feels to be relaxed. And then you go to level 2, where you're entering more what I call a quantum level. See, the thing that a lot of the meditators, even some of the people that have done TM and they've shown that when you get into those deep levels, instant harmony becomes available. So all these things that we're looking for, harmony, happiness, abundance, well-being, already exist, but they exist like an alpha towards theta. So when you close your eyes and you say, okay, I'm going to level 2, you begin to feel, and actually you're asking and demanding. I call it like the Jerry Maguire method. Remember that? Show me the level, show me the money. So when you begin to ask that internally and almost demand that result, it happens. Now the thing is, it may not happen in the first time, but with practice, improvement.
Yes.
So level 1 becomes that deep connected level of all possibilities, what I call that infinite quantum field, where you're in that incredible luminous energy, where just like you tapped into, you shared about the prayer. See, because you've done it so often, that information comes. You can't explain how it happens, but the reality it does, and we all have these intuitions.
But we now know how it happens because you brought the data with you.
Exactly.
So the way that it happens is when you go into an alpha
400 billion possibilities.
Right. Yeah. So when you're in beta, you have a limited ability. When you go into alpha, you have slightly more of an ability. When you go now into theta, or if you now, like we've been trained at the Oneness University, get yourself into the gamma brainwave state, now you're really doing something remarkable.
That's like super lucid.
That's right. And you know, many of you have heard me say again and again, the reason I went to the Oneness University is there was scientific data that being there, studying there, would enable you to enter the gamma state. And that's called the new brain. And boy, when I heard that, I was, you know, on a plane pretty quickly. Same with you. Yeah, fantastic.
Exactly.
Now, I know that the Superintention practice has helped so many people really turn a situation or their lives around. And it's been great for me. So can you please give us one example?
Yes. One of the most profound examples is a friend of mine was working at a place and their company was being downsized. And she wanted to get a promotion. I'm like, okay. See, but people practices, they're always like, okay, it's possible.
Yeah.
So within like a week, she got a promotion. When she first started communicating with the coworkers, I said, oh, I don't know. And she kept saying, well, maybe not, but it is possible, right? See, her key was eventually, within a little bit of time, she got all the workers to say, yes, it's possible. Is it going to happen? I don't think so. But she said, it is possible. And she kept seeing it
That's like
using
level
the
one.
practice. That's right. She kept seeing and feeling, yes, it is. And then she walked into her boss's office, like there was a problem. She goes, hey, you got the promotion. And everybody was astounded.
Fabulous.
But the key was she kept feeling it was possible.
Yes.
And through her conversations with her coworkers, she was able to move the office, her own little people that she connected with, into a state of possibility.
Yes, exactly.
So not only was she believing, but she had her friends assisting.
Have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I was working with a client last week, and she finally had this audition that really meant a lot to her. And it was for a tiny part. I mean, it was 2 lines, but she was so thrilled. And then she didn't get the part. And I said, well, you know, the only solution is for you to get a much bigger part
Yes.
for another show that's going to be so important that you'll forget about that. That afternoon, she got another audition, which was now 2 pages instead of 2 lines.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, you know, and you can keep playing this game with yourself.
Exactly.
You know, if you get this, great. Even if you don't get this, now you just have to get an audition for a much bigger role and get that one because you're tired of going on auditions. Yeah, it's really very clear.
It's creating those neural pathways that allow you to tap into that alpha theta brainwave. And it sounds simple, and the reality is it is.
Yeah, it is.
It just takes practice.
Yeah. And I found, because I've obviously known you for a long time and told a lot of people about this and had people watch the shows that you and I have done before, that it seems that the people who really hear what Rama has to say are people who are innately happy. That you have to get yourself to a certain vibrational state where you believe that, you know, positive expectation and belief.
Yes.
Positive expectation and belief, which is a quote from the Abraham Emotional Guidance Scale, is the entry level to this kind of, and it is, and it shows up, and it happens.
Yes.
So now for me, it took me many years to live here, and I don't know specifically where you are, and that's your destination. You have to get to positive expectation and belief, in my experience, about 90% of the day, every day. And that's a whole other conversation. Watch some of the old shows. You'll find the answer there. Exactly. So now, tell us some of the things that have transformed in your own life using superintention practice, okay?
Well, for me, life just works. And in other words, when I focus on something, it happens. However, lately what's been happening is, you know, we talked about those 3 things, the mind chatter, the conflict. That is transformed. What's even more interesting is that, you know, we get triggered by our friends or family. I've been able to just allow myself to feel what's going on, and then the conversation and the experience completes itself without me having to do it. So that next level where I'm not having to struggle with those parts of myself that I can't do anything about. In other words, it's got to, like, if I was an addict, I finally said, okay, I'm an addict. There's nothing I can do. I need help from a higher consciousness.
But in a more positive way,
Exactly.
if you're looking for your keys,
Yes.
and you see yourself finding your keys, and that's how you handle the problem called lost keys,
Exactly.
then if you're having a problem with, let's say, a client,
Yes.
then you're going to work the same thing, saying perfect relationship with the client, and you're going to see yourself having the perfect relationship, whatever that means to you,
Exactly.
and then that's going to manifest
Right.
in the same way the keys did.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, look at it more simpler. You know, a guru friend used to say to me, hey, I'm surrounded by idiots, but I'm the biggest one since I keep attracting you all. See, if I had a problem with my client and I keep focusing on, oh my God, that's horrible, I'm the one that's broadcasting the problem. It's not going to allow him to enter in a space of possibility because he's going to feel my vibes. And everybody knows this. You go to a party, you're feeling so-so, but the people are jolly and joyful, and you get caught up in the joy.
That's why I once in a while bring someone to your parties, because I know they're going to be forced to be in an environment of joy.
Exactly, yeah. And so this is the key. So as I focus on the solution and be open to it, and the funny thing is I don't have to know how it's going to happen. See, that's kind of one of the things, oh, I always had to know, you know,
Right.
going those 3,
Right.
mind chatter, oh, I have to know. But I don't know. And, you know, I'm okay with that. And since I've said, I'm interested, I don't know how it's going to happen, it happens. And it's even more delightful when it does, because now I'm like, wow. It becomes this wonderful hide and seek with this incredible level of consciousness that provides solutions in ways I never thought were possible.
Okay. Now, because we're talking about what's possible, and we're
Yes.
talking about, he's the king of easy and effortless, right? It's like, I'm not, he is, okay? So, 3-2-1, the
Yes.
3-2-1 system, the
Yes.
superintention practice, allows us to visualize and focus on what we want and have it appear.
Right.
And I don't mean that your cup is going to teleport over here,
Exactly.
or that the bottle, of water on the floor is going to teleport and refill my glass. We're not talking about
That takes
wacky
20
stuff.
years.
Right, exactly. We're not talking about that. What I was going to say, when he comes out next year. But okay.
Yeah.
But there are ways to speed this up.
Exactly.
So tell us about that.
So the way the 3-2-1 practice works is basically you set your intention. And the key here is you're connecting with that deeper consciousness, the one I just shared, the 400 billion, the one that can do 100,000 miles an hour. So you just make a request, hey, take me to level 3 where my mind is calm and relaxed. And it's like you're turning on the channel, and so you set the intent, and then rest of that you just follow through, letting it happen. So then I close my eyes, and the moment I say the intent, okay, so take me to level 3 where my mind is calm, the body's relaxed. I inhale and I feel that channel activate, and when I exhale, I say to myself, 3, 3, 3, and then I just feel and imagine that it's happening. And then I just open to the idea that it is so. And then it happens. And then I memorize that feeling of how nice it feels to be calm and relaxed. And then I say thank you, I express gratitude. And then I says, okay, now take me to level 2, where I'm able to feel that deeper inner harmony, that sense of well-being, that abundance, that light and love. And once again, I make my request, and then the moment I inhale, it activates. And when I exhale, I say 2, 2, 2. And then once again, I almost demand it happens. And then the rest, it's like gently down the stream. And then I begin to feel how nice it feels to be in that inner state of wonderful harmony, that inner state of light and love and well-being. And then let my body bathe in that. I let my heart, let all my cells, my organs, I literally ask them to just feel how nice it feels to be in that inner harmony. And then I say, okay, and I memorize the feelings, the sensations. And the interesting thing is, even if my mind may be chattering, I notice that. Just like I would notice somebody walking by with a cart full of groceries, and I keep focused, hey, this is what I'm interested in inner harmony. So I go back to focusing what I prefer. And then again, I go, how nice it feels to just be in that state of harmony. And then I express gratitude. And then I say, okay, take me to level 1, the deepest level, that quantum field of all possibilities. Set the intent. Inhale, it activates. Exhale, 1, 1, 1. And I just feel how nice it feels. And literally, to help myself, I just imagine an incredible luminous field. I am that field, and the field is me. And I just ask and feel and enjoy. And I engage all of my senses in all 3 levels. And then I say to myself, anytime, any place, anywhere, I can access it, any of these levels, by simply intending, inhaling, and I'm here. And once again, I thank that part of my being that already has these realities in place. And then I say, the more I practice and receive, the easier, more powerful, more available it is. And I stay here a little bit more, and then I ask for the integration of my experience so that it becomes more available, more powerful from here onwards. And I say, when I open my eyes in the next 30 seconds, it'll fully integrate. And then I go, set the intent, inhale, exhale, eyes open, and then I'm able to do anything. And then 60 seconds here, 30 seconds there, and then it just becomes a wave. And it literally activates a powerful, coherent field.
Yes.
So that when I do get triggered, I realize that I may have done something internally to bring this human being, and this human being, this circumstance, this situation, reminding me that they are not the problem.
Yes.
They're showing me, hey, I am getting the results of my interactions.
Yes.
So what I do from there is what opens up more possibilities. I can yell at them, but all that does is allow all the other people that want to be yelled at.
Not worth it.
Too much work, right? Minimum,
refocus
maximum
your
effort.
energy. Refocus
So
quickly.
the triggers, funnily enough, for me are like ways the universe reminds me, hey, you're not so cool after all. But what I've learned to do with them is to say thank you, to go back internally and say, here's what I really prefer. And the more I focus on it, it happens. So next time I get triggered, it's not a big deal. But doesn't mean I'm not hurt, I'm not angry, I'm no longer denying.
You're not hurt. You're not hurt.
No, I'm not hurt.
You may be sad, you may be frustrated, but you're never hurt.
Right. Okay. The key here is I'm allowing the experience to be what it is,
yes.
And then it's done.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, you're right. There's nothing that can hurt me.
It's a word that I hear people use, and I just always want to catch people so that you don't actually have that reinforced. You know, a lot of people believe that someone is hurting them, and you and I know that it isn't true.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing is the language. The idea is that, yes, there is some type of pain and suffering, but it's temporary.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that 3, 2, 1, anybody can do it. And what I find is 30 seconds here, 60 seconds there, the more you're able to do it, and in the morning I do it as soon as I wake up and before going to sleep. Then I find is that it's just another practice like anything else. And the one important key, Susan, is that throughout the day I'm noticing that I'm changing lanes. I'm going, wherever I go, I focus on what I want to eat. If I go shopping, I focus on, hey, these tomatoes. And if they don't have the tomatoes...
Let's talk about that.
Yes,
because one of the things that I find that's so interesting, so many of you who work with me and have worked with me have had real challenges in making the choice that's really going to serve you. So Rama's speaking about making choices, picking ripe tomatoes, but we're speaking about something obviously that's much more serious than that. Choosing a partner who has the ability to support you in the kind of life you each say you want, or at least that you say you want. we don't know about this other person yet, right?
Yes.
Or choosing a job or choosing a career that authentically meets your needs. So making choices is a very complicated process until people master some of the distinctions.
Yes.
So do me a favor, and just very briefly, because we just don't have much time today, but briefly give us some sort of information about this choice, the whole process of making choices that you're speaking about.
I focus on what I call my internal experience, and the best way to describe it is how many people know the temperature of the water of the shower that I or any of you take?
Well, but no, what about new choices, things they don't know about?
Right.
That's what I mean.
So,
that's what you want to focus on.
Exactly. But the idea is that something within us knows it. So the first thing I do is I remember the times when I've made good choices and what that felt like.
But I don't mean that's not the question today,
because
because I know we've covered that.
Sure.
And today we want to cover things we haven't covered before.
Right.
So someone has a choice to make. They don't have any experience.
Right.
So what we're looking for is for you to speak about maybe the inner radar or something like that. But when you've got to make a choice,
right,
and it isn't something you're familiar with, and it isn't something where you have these distinctions ready at hand. You haven't done it before. You don't know what that's going to look like. But honestly, I can tell you from my own practice with Superintention that there is a way of allowing yourself to be guided. So What would you say about that? To the best choice?
I go back to my inner feeling. I mean, I usually say, okay, then show me where I've made choices. It's kind of like what's called cross-contextualizing. You start with something that's familiar, and by being in that space of that good feeling, then you say, okay, now show me what's going to work here. Does that make sense?
Well, give an example
Okay.
of somebody who needs to get a job, some young person, let's say, or somebody changing careers, someone who really doesn't have 6 years to study everything they need to study about that career. So how would that person use the superintention practice to be able to choose? Because choosing is, I think, one of the most fascinating things that we have to do as humans.
Right. The most effective thing I can do with the superintention practice is that it allows you to move into a state where the choices are possible. We just have to realize that you cannot choose from a logical, analytical place. You can do all the research and all that, it's just not going to work. When you go into a deeper state, you just ask, and the different things that show up will give you the different possibilities. Does that make sense?
So let me make sure I've understood.
Yes.
So we know that you have to keep your state in this state of positive expectation and belief.
Yes.
Then we know that you have to focus on what you want. So we're using career as an example. So you want to have, let's say, a job that lasts at least a year. You want to earn a certain amount of whatever number of tens of thousands of dollars in order to, have it worth your while. Then you would focus on the kind of people you want to work with, or maybe the city where the job is, or the kind of boss you would have. So anything that you do know, you would just focus on all the things that you know. Okay.
Exactly.
Then how do they use the 3-2-1 part of it to really be able to choose?
The 3-2-1 part, see, once you've done your part, it's kind of like you're putting an order. The rest is allowing the choice to manifest.
Gotcha.
Because ultimately, you could put in the order, but someone's got to cook it and someone's got to bring it.
But could you talk about waiting for it to manifest? Because I think that's a really valuable part of what you teach.
The key to manifesting is allowing yourself to be in a space of receiving. See, after a while, you can place all the orders in the world, but if you're no longer in the mode of, okay, I'm open to receive, it's just not going to happen. It's kind of like you place an order and you get a confirmation it's being delivered. You know it's being delivered, no big deal. So the 3-2-1 practice allows you to get into a level to be open to receive, because that deeper level of the alpha theta brainwaves is what opens up the door to receiving. The beta brainwaves is great for order taking. I'd like this, I like that. But sooner or later, you have to let it go and then say, okay, I'm open to receive. The challenge, what I see with a lot of us, and me including, is that I want it now, and then when we don't get it, oh, it's not going to happen. See, when you focus on it's not going to happen, you've already changed the channel away from the receiving channel to the it's not going to happen channel. And when you're focused on it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen.
And even if we allow ourselves to get stuck, and the next thing that we want to talk about is how to get out of that place of feeling frightened, angry, or sad. That's my terminology.
Yes.
And work that I do. It seems that the negative emotions that we have as humans are some version of fear, some version of anger, and some version of sadness. So you know that that's not the receiving channel. And you know that if you close your eyes and do the superintention practice, you're going to be able to get back into the receiving channel.
Yes.
Now, they have, in my experience, they have 4.5 minutes maximum to unhook themselves from the trigger, right? And so how do they get out of these triggers? What's the quickest way?
The fastest way that I've learned is, number one, I state what's going on, okay? I've been triggered. I don't know what to do, I need help. And then immediately I say, okay, I need to go to a state of a deeper level where solutions exist. So I close my eyes, inhale, 3, 2, 1. And I just allow the feelings of frustration or whatever's going on to be. I'm not attempting to judge them or evaluate them, because the moment I judge them, I'm off on another path. The key here is just to be allowing whatever's going on, at the same time realizing that I am not trying to fix this. I'm letting a deeper part of me, that 400 billion processing capacity to take care of it. So when I just breathe, it allows the experience to just come up. And because I'm not interfering with my thoughts and concepts, because I'm no longer in that analytical channel, I'm in the deeper channel, completion happens. And whenever completion happens, there's freedom. And choices are much more available when you have inner freedom. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh boy, and if you have inner freedom, then you don't care about anything anyway.
Exactly. Now, it's not easy.
Wonderful.
The thing about it I want to share with you, it's not easy, except the alternative is you're trying to do something that'll never work. That's what I came to realize.
And the alternative is so excruciating that, my experience is whatever you have in terms of time and money, you want to spend it on getting happy and peaceful. Because
Exactly.
until you're happy and peaceful, nothing else matters anyway.
Exactly.
People are always asking me, why have I devoted my whole life to this? Because just didn't seem to be that there was anything else worth doing, So now you've said that birds of a feather flock together.
Yes.
So I'm sure that people really want to hear this. They want to understand.
Well, it's this old, I guess it comes from biblical times, I was just reading about it, that birds of the same kind tend to associate. Think about when I was in high school. I come from India, and here are people, all these little cliques. And I started noticing that people with similar temperaments would associate together. In other words, whatever our internal speed is, for lack of a better word, we tend to naturally attract those people, and we feel good. So, but in a way, it can be a problem. See, if you're focusing on being unhappy, then you're literally attracting all those people. So with the Superintention program, the second component is community. To deliberately find a community or a group or a gathering that will allow you to be at the higher level because they're already there. That's why if you're not happy, you just have to say, okay, I need to find a different situation that will allow me to feel in that level. Because, see, they've already created that inner harmony.
Yes.
Just like you've listened to their kids play, they're practicing and they sound horrible on their music, and like within 6 months, they're this awesome band. Because they've worked together over and over, and then with them practicing together and being focused, the inner harmony just happens from within. And it's another process of allowing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, we've spoken today a couple of times about someone who's unhappy. And we've talked about all the different things that one can do to get more joyous. Drop all of that and lift oneself up to this enlightening, actually physically lighter state. I'm doing a show with Mirabai after this, and we're talking about the actual lightening. It's almost like your body feels lighter. It always amazes me that when I'm happy, I don't weigh less on the scale. I should weigh a lot less. I should weigh what I used to weigh when I was about 19.
It's emotional weight,
Susan. I haven't figured this out.
Emotional weight.
One day we'll have a solution to this, right?
Exactly.
And you can say, be in an environment of joyous people, for sure.
Yes.
Except that people who are really deeply suffering, it takes an enormous amount of courage for someone who is deeply suffering and in a really grave state to be willing to be in the presence of joyous people. I can say to you, humans are osmotic beings. Just like in the science class, you'd have a beaker of water with salt in it and another beaker of water with nothing in it, and then you'd connect the two with the pipette and you'd end up with two exact
equal
beakers.
amounts,
yeah, the same amount of salt water, the same amount of salt water. That's what osmosis is. But the water and the salt, they don't have a choice. They're just doing what I make them do in the lab. You've got to make this choice to pick yourself up and put yourself in an environment that is potentially going to feel very uncomfortable at first. Because a miserably suffering person in the middle of a trauma, if you don't know how to reach out and up from that state, and you go to Milena and Rama's house and you're surrounded by all these oneness bliss bunnies, it's going to be challenging. So what do you tell them? How do you get them there?
What I say to that is that you just have to be done. And otherwise, it's not going to be any different. See, until you decide, I want something different, it's not just deciding. It's intending, seeing and feeling, and then taking the action. because sometimes we just can't help people that are there, and they just
Well,
have to suffer.
that's my area.
Yeah. No, right. But I think
yeah.
the idea
so
is
when
that
when they're ready, they come.
yes, and until then, they're going to fight you. That's what I find, and I'm sure you find that people can say all
but
things.
We'll talk later about that because
No,
I've
no,
got
no.
all those systems of what to do
Exactly.
when people are deeply unhappy. But so you're saying is when they're ready,
Right, because
they
even
appear.
Exactly. The thing about it, if you're miserable, sometimes we get comfortable in the misery. So when you go to a different situation, it's gonna almost pound on that. So you just have to just breathe and allow those feelings of uncomfortableness just to pass through.
And I think you're talking about the courage. You know,
Yes, absolutely.
It takes a lot of courage
Yeah.
to be willing to say, as I did, so long ago, and consistently, I'm not happy yet, or I'm not completely healthy yet, or I'm not living in a state of peace yet, or I'm not living what I believe is my true self yet. And I heard somebody say at a Howard Wills event a couple of weeks ago, something that I always say to him. After Howard's worked on me, I always say to him, oh, I feel like myself now.
Yeah.
And so I believe you have this innate understanding that if you feel angry or you feel scared or you feel sad, that's not your true self. And so using the superintention practice gives you an opportunity to reprogram your brain, because that's what it is,
Yep.
so that you can very quickly, really effortlessly, become who you've always wanted to be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think what you shared, Susan, is one of the most important things. Admitting I'm not happy is actually the first step. Because if you're not willing to admit you're unhappy, it doesn't matter where you go to, who you're with, that inner channel is stuck.
And everybody knows you're not unhappy anyway.
That's right.
So you can't fool us. So
That's right.
You can't fool anybody. So
Right.
you might as well.
But
Okay.
they're more simpler. I mean, when you go to the restaurant and you get this dish and you eat it, I don't like it. See, the first step is to say, I don't like it. Then the other possibilities become available.
Yes.
Now, here's what I find.
Yes.
The nicer you are to the server, the better the result.
Yes.
See, immediately I say, oh my gosh, I wanted this. It's not something I want. Can you get me something else? I'd be really grateful. And, I'll pay for it. So I immediately don't make the situation bad. It's not their fault. It's what I ordered.
That's right.
Sometimes we forget that we ordered the misery
That's right.
sometime, someplace. I don't know how it happens. So the more we go, yes, it's my misery, but it's not all that is. There's other items on the menu.
That's true. That's true. Now, we don't have much time. So
Sure.
what do you mean by VVR?
Yes, VVR. Victim, victimizer, rescuer. They're all the same.
Aha.
You're seeing a situation where the person is just in a massive victim situation. You're seeing who's victimizing them, and you're like, oh, I need to rescue that person. Don't do it.
Step away from the moving vehicle.
As my friend used to say, is beware of the helping hand that strikes back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, step away
yeah.
from the...
Oh, yeah.
Because once you get involved, you can't get out. You just have to cut your losses. Okay. Because just like you shared, when the person's not willing to admit they're going to keep doing it, I mean, and you and I have had conversations, like what I shared with you earlier, a friend of mine used to say, oh, I ran away from my relationship. I said, the problem is you took yourself with you. And we're like a month later, it's the same guy, almost the same look and the same name. So the victim, victimizer, rescuer, either way you look at it, it's like a program. You just have to say, hey, thank you. And it's not easy because we want to really, truly help people. But there's a point of helping them versus getting involved. Does that make sense?
Oh, I certainly know it.
Right. But there's a
certainly
key
know it.
distinction.
Yes.
I think you and I have talked about
Yes.
this.
Yeah. In fact, I was just speaking to a friend who runs an animal rescue organization. Mm-hmm. So you would think, because we're not even talking about crazy people here, right? We're talking about, animals. Animals are all pure beings in my view. And having been in animal welfare work for about 50 years now, you'd think, but of course, I keep reminding her, yeah, but she has to deal with people in order to help the animals.
Yes.
So how do you do what I think you described as becoming immune to suffering, which is,
Right.
I think that's an amazing term.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
The key to being immune to suffering is, once again, the superintention practice gets you into that state of inner harmony. See, what I realized through these different practices is that if I'm unclear, I can only get out of lack of clarity by being in clarity. So what happens is when I practice being at level 2 and 1 more and more, this deep inner harmony makes the immunity possible. It doesn't stop me from feeling unhappy, not working out, but I'm no longer attached to why it's happening, and that this other person made me unhappy, or like for my example, my wife has a tendency of leaving cups, with teacups here and there, and I used to get so mad and yell at her, and then I realized that that's just what she does. So a part of me accepted it. So now sometimes I'll still get mad, but then I'll smile and I'll remember that I love her dearly, and she's not the problem.
And the cups aren't the problem either.
The cups aren't the problem.
Okay, good.
So the beauty is that by practicing being in this deep inner harmony, the immunity to being triggered and having 10 days to recover from it doesn't happen anymore. Where trigger happens, I allow that to be fully experienced, because the part of me that's experiencing it knows exactly what to do, that deeper inner part, and then the solution and happiness returns. It really is this simple.
Yes.
And that's the reason that I do these practices. Because all the other stuff didn't help. But it's like I have this dear inner friend that's available, and the more I call upon it, the more it becomes available.
Yes. Now, I have to say that once again, Rama has changed my life forever. I don't get to see Rama and Milena that often, and in a minute I'm going to ask him to tell us about the LA community that he and his wife have created. But the really fascinating thing to me is that by having Rama bring these figures today, the conscious mind in beta or alpha can do this, but the super conscious mind or the unconscious mind can do 100 times this, or 1,000 times, or 12 million times this. What has shifted for me just since you guys appeared, and you mentioned this, and I really want to share this with you, because if I got this today, goodness knows I want you to get it as well, is we think that we're being functional, right? We think that with our eyes open, we're being functional. I'm here. I'm your host on the TV show. I'm the producer of the TV show. I'm living a life. I have a business, all that, right? So you would think that I need to keep my eyes open, keep my eyes on the road. That would be the normal response. No, it isn't. I'm telling you that what I've now seen today, and we have statistics that prove it, is that if I stay in what I might have said this morning was a less functional state, but if I stay in less of a pragmatic, information-driven consciousness, the results are going to be greater. The results will be better. And I will tell you that I had proof of it already. I mean, you just arrived at, 1:30, and at 1:56, I realized I had forgotten something that I need for the TV show to happen. I'd left it at home. I didn't notice it because I looked for it. I noticed it because Rama's here, where I'm thinking superintention practice. I'm letting my unconscious, superconscious mind work, and suddenly the information came to me, the folder, the thumb drive. So I had proof just, and
Exactly.
really it was a miracle that I was able to be in that state from practicing the superintention practice.
Well, the interesting thing is, you could have been said, oh my God, it's horrible, I don't know what to do. You just said, I forgot it, I know exactly how to get it. This is minimum effort, maximum efficiency.
That's right, and zero drama. I'm so glad that Rama could observe that I was able to use the practice, and so did Jared, our director, and so did Tyler, our sound man, and everybody. It was like I had witnesses, because believe me, we've all witnessed the alternative, haven't we? Haven't we seen enough people freaking out and not solving anything?
Well, the thing is, if we see enough freak out, we tend to think that's the norm. But the reality is, it's not.
Yes.
Yes. So tell us about the LA community, because
Okay.
I think we only have about enough time for that.
Sure. My wife and I experienced this thing called Oneness Blessing 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it was so amazingly profound that she went to India to a 21-day. And what makes this different is that the whole idea is you just receive this blessing from ordinary people who've gone through the process. So we decided every Wednesday we're going to have this practice. And then I started sharing the Superintention practice for like a half hour before that. And the key is the consistency. And now we have people that have come from literally all over the country and sometimes the world. And the moment they come in, they go, oh my gosh, it feels amazing here. And we didn't create the amazing feeling. It's everybody else that just opened their hearts to being there. And that's why the community is so important. So even when we're not there, we have dear friends who are actually taking care of it. When Elena and I had gone to India, we had a couple of friends that just made it happen. It's like we were not even have to be there. And that's the support. And that's why I encourage, if you want to come to our Wednesday nights, you're welcome to come.
Please do, and tell them where it is.
It's in Woodland Hills, 5351 Woodlake Avenue. And you can go to our website, onenessmanor.com.
Thank you. It's fabulous. It's really fabulous to have you here. I'm so grateful always. So this is our annual event,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, this is our annual event. And I will be at some of your events in May. I'm very
Yes.
excited because I'll be in Los Angeles. I'm going to make sure I'm there on at least one Wednesday.
Yes, definitely.
And this is like entering a new world. It's like entering a world where people are already happy. Not like you have to be the one to bring them to happiness by showing up and working like a dog and struggling and cheering them up and all that stuff, which we've all done so much. This is a community of people who are already living in peace a great deal of the time and who are committed to that. Committed to living in causeless joy, to use the quote from the founder, Amma Bhagavan, the founder of the Oneness University.
Yes.
So I thank you, each of you, for watching today, and thank you to Jared, who's our director, and Tyler, who's our sound man. We so appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you again and again. My next show, which we are actually shooting in a few minutes, is with the wonderful Mirabai Devi, who's going to be telling us about her event where she was in the presence of 55,000 people.
Wow.
So we really, really thank you. And please continue to read my column in Santa Barbara Family Life magazine, Ask the Love and Relationship Coach. And again, if you want your free session, please give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you.